All right, guys. So today we're going to be talking about integers. All right, and we're going to start reviewing adding and subtracting integers. And the reason why we cover this so much in math is because it's such a huge stepping stone. So if you think back to kindergarten and first grade, you remember those days of where you're sitting and daydreaming out the window? Maybe you had a desk, and on your desk you had your name tag. Do you remember how exciting that was? And on your name tag, there was a number line. All right, your number line always started with 0, and then it said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Usually your number line on your desk in elementary school only had this blue part on it. Well, in 6th grade, we started introducing negative numbers to you. And the reason why the number line then introduced the negative side, the red sign, is because this is a new concept, right? This idea of there are negative integers and negative numbers out there. So the reason why we hit this so much is because it's a huge stepping stone for high school and for pre-algebra and algebra, this idea of adding and subtracting integers. Over the summer, I helped a lot of middle school students with math, and a lot of them really struggled with this idea of adding and subtracting integers. So if you are somebody that struggles with this, now is the time to ask for help. And now is the time to help yourself out by drawing those visual aids that I'm going to talk about in these notes, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So the definition of integer is a positive or negative number on a number line. Okay, so as a friendly reminder, a positive movement on the number line goes to the right, and a negative movement on the number line goes to the left. Numbers that go to the right get bigger, and numbers that go to the left on the number line get smaller. So in 6th and 7th grade, we talked about adding integers, all right? A negative and a negative. When I'm adding a negative number and a negative number, what you're going to do is add the absolute value of the two numbers and make the numbers negative. So here's what they did. They said -5 plus -9 is the same as saying, okay, the absolute value of -5 plus the absolute value of -9 is equal to the absolute value of 14. 14 is equal to 14, so then they throw in this negative sign. Another way to look at it, all right, if I'm talking negative numbers and movements, I'm going to start here at 0 on my number line. If I go down 5, that's a negative movement 5. They also want me from this -5 to go -9 more to the left. So here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to add some more numbers. 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So here is my -5. That's my -5 movement. And they wanted me to add -9 more. So where do I end up? Well, I'm going to end up at -14. Okay. Another example might be something like this. We're going to write this down. -3. We're going to say -10. That's the same. Some of you might be used to saying, well, -3 plus -10. Those are going to be the same exact thing. Well, I know that this is going to be -13, right? Well, if I were to draw this out on a number line, I always start at 0. They want me to move left 3, -3, and then they want me to go -10 more, which would put me at -13. Okay, if you're one of those people that needs this visual, by all means, please go ahead, draw it out, draw yourself a number line, help yourself out. It's one of those things that eventually, the more you work on this, the better you're going to become. But if you need to draw out a number line, I'm okay with that. Let's just keep working on our facts, all right? So then down here it says a negative and a positive, or a positive and a negative. You're going to subtract the absolute value of the two numbers, larger minus smaller, and take the sign of the number with the greater absolute value. For example, they say take -7, so if I start at 0, a negative movement is to the left. So I go over to -7. But then from -7, they want me to add +12. Well, if I do that, that means I need to start at -7 again and add 12. So here's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Where do I end up? I end up at 5. All right. Here, they're taking a different approach. They're taking the absolute value of the two numbers and subtracting the larger one. So they're saying 12 minus 7. The absolute value of 12 is greater than 7, so the answer is positive. The answer would be 5. We'll take a look at the second one. They say 6 plus negative 9. Well, I know this negative 9 has the greater absolute value, right? Because we're talking distance. So they're saying 9 minus 6 is 3, so 9 is greater than 6. The answer has to be negative. So you subtract and keep the sign of the larger absolute value. Visual people like me, if you're a visual learner, we'll talk a lot about that this year, okay, or an auditory or kinesthetic learner, you're starting at 0, all right? And visual people, we're going over 6, a positive movement. And then they want me to stop there and they want me to go negative 9. That's a negative movement. So when I go over negative 9, here I am ending at negative 3, okay? So in my mind, I often think of adding and subtracting integers as the cha-cha slide, sliding to the left, sliding to the right, all right? But some people, this idea of subtracting and keeping the larger sign, if your signs are different, this works great for you as well, all right? Subtracting integers, main ideas here is to keep the first number the same, change the subtraction sign to an addition sign, and then change the sign of the second number. Then use the integer addition rules. Okay, main thing to keep in mind is going to be this one right here. All right, so let's start with the first one. We have negative 3. If I start at 0, subtracting integers, negative 3 minus 9 is the same as negative 3 plus negative 9. Okay, in my brain, again, I like to think of, okay, I'm going over negative 3, and then from negative 3, they want me to go over another negative 9, so I end up at negative 12. Okay, I've also seen some students say, okay, well, I have 1, 2, 3 negatives, and then I have 9 more negatives. How many negatives do I have altogether? 12. Negative 12. For this second one, it says 15 minus negative 8. I put a star here. Do you remember why I put a star there? That's right. If you have a double negative, that turns into an addition problem. So 15 plus 8 gives you 23. All right, for this next one, here's another double negative, negative 6. So if I start at 0 and I go over negative 6 to negative 6, they say do the opposite of subtraction. So what's the opposite of subtraction? Addition, which is why we're adding 4, right? From negative 6. So when I do that, I'm going the opposite direction of negatives, and that puts me at negative 2. So a lot of this is just working with the idea of adding and subtracting negative numbers. All right, down below, I'm going to go over a few of these with you. So number 1, we are adding negative 80 plus 77. So if I go over negative 80 on a number line, I'm going to technically add 77 to that, which means I know I need to keep the sign of the larger absolute value. It's going to be a negative 3 because I still have this much room right here. I still have leftover negatives. Okay. Number 3, we're going to the left, a negative movement, 64. So negative 64. And they want me to add negative 33 more. More negatives, right? So when I do that, I'm going to end up 4 plus 3 gives me 7. 6 plus 3 is 9. I'm adding and keeping my sign. Be careful on number 5. Be careful on number 4. Hint, hint. Be careful on number 6 and 7. Let's talk about number 8. Same sign. So we're just going to add them together and keep the sign. So when I add those numbers together, you should get 41, negative 41. Okay. I'm going to have you guys do 4. I'm going to have you do 2, 5, and 6. And I'm also going to have you try number 11. And I'm going to hop back in for number 10. So when I look for these, I want to look and see, is there anything I can combine together? Well, I see a negative 93 and a negative 179. When I add those together and keep their sign, 9 plus 3 is 12, carry my 1. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 7 is 17. So I end up getting negative 272 plus 191. So when that happens, we learned you subtract and keep the sign with the bigger value, bigger absolute value. So now I'm going to subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1. This becomes a 1. 17 minus 9 is going to be 8 and 8 is 16, so 8. So I end up getting negative 81. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, again, is number 2, number 5, 6, 7, and 11. All right, and then down below, I'm going to have you do numbers 1 through 9. All right, so those are our notes today on adding and subtracting integers. When you are done with that, look and see what's next on our list.